Did you know that the actual cocaine bear had quite the journey after his body was found in 1985? He was stuffed, then placed in storage, then a pawn shop. He even did some time with a famous country singer and one of the highwaymen, Waylon Jennings. Cocaine Bear's taxidermied remains currently reside in the Kentucky for Kentucky Fun Mall, which appears to be a Kentucky-themed store. The pics reminded me of a Buc-ee's. Currently, several individuals and groups have bids in to buy the bear, including Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Welcome to the Lore of the South.
Follow the show on social media to keep up with what's going on and to see pics that go along with each episode. Search for Lore of the South on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Lore of the South with me, Kelly Cruz. How the heck have y'all been? Fair warning y'all, this episode is going to be a bit different from our usual. Actually, it will kind of be like our Patreon episodes. So if you enjoy this episode, check out the Patreon for more and for exclusive content. If you prefer our regular episodes, hang in there and we'll be back to our regular programming by the next episode. It's just been a rough week and I ran out of time to get a regular episode out. But we still wanted to deliver an episode to you guys this Sunday. And if you've been listening for a while, you know about the ongoing anemia issues I've been dealing with. Now to top it off, I had a mammogram and ultrasound come back with something suspicious. And now need to have a breast biopsy done. So y'all keep me and the family in your thoughts for a positive outcome. But enough about that. Let's get to it. And welcome our special guest, Producer Mike, to the episode.
Hey everybody.
And just to let y'all know, things are probably going to go downhill from here pretty quick. And also, fair warning, this is kind of...
Let's not use downhill. Let's use off the rails.
Yeah, off the rails. That's probably more accurate. And also, just fair warning, this is going to be kind of a drug-heavy episode. And probably a lot of that is to do with the two movies we watched over the last 2 weekends. The first being... and I had to look this up and write it down so I did not forget, the new Pedro Pascal, notice I'm putting his name first, and Nick Cage movie, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It was pretty funny.
It was pretty good, yeah.
Just a little background on that one though, it helps if you're familiar with Nicolas Cage's movies.
Lots of references.
And it's kind of deep, so be prepared for that. Like, deep in a cheesy way? I don't know. Anyways. And then
it's very Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's very Nicolas Cage. And Pedro Pascal was flippin' hilarious. Oh, and if you saw the episode of SNL with Pedro on it, that was probably one of the best episodes in a long time. The next movie we watched, which was just the other day, as y'all can probably tell from the Did You Know segment, was Cocaine Bear.
Very, very funny.
Okay, yeah, if you like...
It's very cheesy horror.
Yeah, horror, if you like comedy horror, I guess as it's called,
yeah,
you'll like it. Shaun of the Dead, or...
Yeah, what was the other one with Woody Harrelson?
Oh, yeah, Zombieland.
Zombieland, yeah.
Yeah, that's super, super, super gory.
Mm-hmm.
But it was funny. We watched those two movies, and so that's kind of led to some of the topics today. And basically what we're going to do is just cover some new... And that's why you keep hearing my paper shuffling, because I went old school and actually printed stuff out. And it was weird that a lot of these News of the Weird stories came back with involved drug use or drug lords or, that sort of thing. Kind of a theme.
News of the Weird is... all about drugs.
A
lot of news of the weird, but
I'm going to be skipping the history-making news, but yeah, I'm probably going to be skipping those because a lot of times when producer Mike and I are on here together, like you'd see that on the Patreon, we get a little wordy and mouthy, and these go long, so I'm just gonna leave those out for now. But guess what, y'all? Our first News of the Weird story is the true story of Cocaine Bear. So, Cocaine Bear, they believe happened because of a drug trafficker, and I had his name and everything. Convicted drug smuggler Andrew Thornton in September 11th of 1985 was flying over the Chattahoochee area when I guess he started having plane trouble or something. So he starts pushing the cocaine, like in the movie, out the door.
All right, spoiler alerts.
Spoiler alerts. So he starts pushing the cocaine out the door and then follows after it. But due to how much weight was on him, his parachute malfunctioned and he was found in his Gucci loafers on somebody's driveway in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah, how did that happen? Did he got hit by something?
No, that was movie. That was totally fiction. What but really happened to him was like he loaded his body down with kilos of cocaine, and then because of the extra weight, the parachute malfunctioned.
Oh, okay.
And he splatted into a driveway. And then it wasn't until December when they found the remains of Cocaine Bear.
How long was that? What was the difference in the time?
It was from September to December when they found Cocaine Bear.
Oh, okay. So about 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. So there was empty plastic packaging all around this little black bear. And so they did...
Was it little?
He weighed...
Did it say?
Yeah. He was 175 pounds. So
he was a little bear. He wasn't a very big guy. Not like the one that was in the movie.
I think probably one of our kids weighs that much. I mean, like, that's the size of an adult.
Yeah.
So they found the poor little 175-pound black bear, and he had paraphernalia scattered around him. So they did a necropsy. They say autopsy on here, but we know when it's an animal, it's called a necropsy. They did a necropsy, and they said that the bear had absorbed 3 or 4 grams of cocaine into its bloodstream, although it may have eaten more. And it says that they found like 40 open plastic containers with traces of cocaine in there. So who knows how much it actually ingested before the bear overdosed. So that's the true story of Cocaine Bear, and of course we know now that his carcass resides in the Kentucky Fun Mall, and I believe that was in Louisville, as they say. Louisville. I'm gonna make him mad.
Curious.
Louisville.
I'm curious. Curious to how Uncle Horace would say it, because with the basketball being Louisville and Kentucky being rivals, I wonder how he would pronounce that.
Oh, I'm sure he probably says Louisville.
Yeah.
I'll be getting a message.
Yeah, we'll be getting a message. Yeah.
Mike was correct. It's Louisville.
Yeah.
Louisville.
Mm-hmm. Louisville.
Okay, I'll stop Kentucky. I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay, so now this one's probably up our spooky alleys.
Hold on.
Wait, okay, you have Cocaine Bear questions.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm rushing us on to the next story.
So Cocaine Bear is a tragic story in real life, because it's just about a dude who dumps cocaine out of a plane.
And a bear ODs, yeah.
And the drug dealer himself ends up killing himself because the parachute won't work.
Right. He splats.
The baby bear, so the little bear, because it was only 175 pounds.
You said baby.
Well, I mean, that probably could be a baby bear.
He was probably young, yeah.
Yeah. But
juvenile.
So he ate so much cocaine he died, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what 3 grams in the system would be like, what that would be like.
Yeah, but it said that he had like, what was it, 60 and 30 empty packages of Coke around him. So, I mean, like...
I wonder if he'd been there a while. Like, if it's like a bear rave. You know?
They didn't find all the little squirrels that had dropped over and stuff. What was that movie that had like the raccoon? Oh, the bear was a bad guy, and they had to get they had to score all the food for the bear.
Oh man, what was that movie? It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it wasn't that great.
But Steve Carell was the squirrel, and when the squirrel drank caffeine, everything in the world stopped because he was going so fast.
Yeah, that would have been when the kids were a little over the hedge. That's what it was. Yeah. Over the hedge. Anyways. So, any more questions about?
No, but what I was going to say without getting into like too many spoilers about the Cocaine Bear movie, is how they portrayed the bear in the movie. The progression of how the bear was portrayed in the movie from the beginning to the end was like two different things. Because the beginning, the thing's just going around terrorizing everybody.
Okay, so what Elizabeth Banks, who's the director of Cocaine Bear, said was after she heard the story of the true life Cocaine Bear, she wanted to show she felt would have paid homage to the sad story of Cocaine Bear as like Cocaine Bear getting to live its best life. Because that's kind of the way that is. Yeah, like that's what she wanted to portray was like from the bear's point of view and what would have happened if the bear had
because there was nothing
go on a rager, I guess.
There was nothing funnier than every time that bear got a sniff of cocaine, how his eyeballs would like blow up.
This is a family friendly show. Let's not talk about
we put spoiler alerts and warning that this is
true. It's a very cocaine heavy episode, guys.
Yeah. And how all of a sudden that thing went from, like
yeah, what did they say?
He was like a crackhead. Like
Oh no, that was like, what was that crap they were doing in Miami? Bath salts and eating each other's faces off, turned into zombies. Yeah, that's like what it was, bath salts.
But know too that the movie itself is gory. Like,
it's way more gory than like Shaun of the Dead or maybe even Zombieland. I mean,
zombies are so different because that's just kind of like gore. I mean, it is gore. Yeah. Like, but it's not.
And it's also people and not just nature.
Yeah.
And people are, anyway. So
people are horrible sometimes. So, some of them can have their face eaten off by a bear, and that's okay.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like what the allegory for being a zombie is. I mean, that's like the thing for like what human nature. Anyways, we're getting way too deep.
Yeah.
Seems like I was going to say one other thing about Cocaine Bear. I don't remember. Are we ready for our next story?
Yeah, we can move on to the next story.
Okay, so our next story comes to us from Mexico. And apparently Mexico's president spotted an elf. He even got a picture of it. And I will try to find that and post it on our social media. So this little being, the president believes, comes as a part of Mayan folklore and is called a Aluxe, A-L-U-X-E, which is a mischievous woodland spirit. Lopez Obrador, who was the president, wrote the photo was taken 3 days ago by an engineer. It appears to be an Aluxe, adding, everything is mystical. Dude, I bet he got crystals to line his chakras.
I bet.
What you think?
Yeah.
I bet he does.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if he had to hide his little pot of gold.
They're Mexican, not Irish. Oh, but yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day. So the nighttime photo shows a tree with a branch forming what looks like a halo of hair, and what may be stars forming the figure's eyes. Lopez Obrador has long expressed a reverence for indigenous cultures and beliefs. Engineers and workers are in the Yucatan Peninsula constructing a tourist train that is the president's pet project. But the little mischievous creatures like to play tricks on people, like hiding things. So if your keys go missing and you're in Mexico, it may be an Alexis. Some people leave small offerings to appease them. This is like every fairy folklore all over the world.
Yeah.
So maybe it is a little Mayan Mexican fairy elf thing. Because what do they
That's
do?
probably where
in, like,
cocaine's bear cocaine came from too, probably.
you think from Mexico, not further
Maybe.
south?
Maybe. You know.
You said Yucatan. We getting down. That's Central America. The ancient Mayan civilization reached its height from 300 AD to 900 AD in the Yucatan and in adjacent parts of Central America. But the Mayans' descendants continue to live on the peninsula today. Many continue speaking the Mayan language and wearing the traditional clothing, while also conserving traditional foods, crops, religion, medicine, despite the conquest of the region by the Spanish between 1527 and 1546. So we start with little elves, and we end with the Spanish conquest. I like the elves better, but yeah. Spaniards be taking stuff over, y'all. That's what they did.
Yeah.
They owned a good chunk of the world at one time.
Yeah. Hang on a second.
Oh, I needed to add where these stories are coming from. Let's see. Cocaine Bear was from Variety. And most of the next to these are going to be from the AP, unless I state otherwise. So do you have any remarks to make about...
No, that one's pretty straightforward, you know.
So what do you think
Like-
the president of Mexico said? I
What
almost
he
called him
said.
Oberon, but his name's not Oberon. I don't have a crush on Pedro Pascal, I promise.
Yes, you do. It's a newfound fondness anyway, if anything else.
Oh, I can tell him the story while you're writing your notes over there about our little Pedro Pascal story. So the other day, Michael meets me at Walmart to help me out doing a goldfish and cookie delivery. And one of our goldfish is Mandalorian themed. So I had to make sure that producer Mike knew that those were no longer called Mandalorians. They're called Pedros. So anytime that he requests Mandalorians in a goldfish order, they now have to be called Pedros, or I'm not ordering them. Anyways, I think I'm funny. Are you ready for the next story?
Yeah,
Okay,
let's go.
we didn't even know you were back.
Oh, I'm back. I'm back
Okay.
the whole time.
Okay, so now moving on from elves and back to the cocaine. So have you heard about Pablo Escobar's cocaine hippos?
Cocaine hippos.
Okay, and I don't know why they call him that other than Pablo was a drug lord.
So he just bought hippos.
Right.
Oh, okay. That kinda
wouldn't,
makes sense.
The hippos weren't snorting coke or, the hippos were not cocaine bears. So he had like a zoo, and that was one of the ways that he kept the populace around him happy. Because, here's a free zoo you can bring your family to. Don't mind the murder and mayhem and all
And
of
all
this.
the other stuff
that's going on.
This the wag the dog situation. Or, hey, look
Well,
over here what
that's-
we got going on. And
Yeah.
here, you can have this.
Yeah,
Here,
well,
you
it's paying people off. What year did Pablo Escobar? We need to ask Siri.
Pablo Escobar. 1st of December, 1949.
That's when he was born. Oh shit, he
Think
just had a
so,
birthday. He just had a birthday. They killed him December 2nd, 1993.
Yeah,
That's when
there
he
we
was
go.
shot. Okay, so Bogota, Colombia, and again, this is from the AP News. Colombia is proposing on transferring at least 70 hippos that live near Pablo Escobar's former ranch. These hippos are descendants from the original 4 that Pablo had imported from Africa. And of course, they were imported illegally. The late drug lord, who was at his height in the 1980s, went all over the world collecting all these different animals for his zoo. But after the shootout and when he was killed in... Okay, so Pablo had his height of power in the 80s and then was later killed in a shootout December 2nd, 1993. Or at least that was the date of his death. Mexico now, let's see. But anyways, Pablo traveled all over the world, gathering exotic animals for his ranch slash zoo. And the original 4 hippos have multiplied to at least 80.
So did they get released?
They got out.
They got out.
Like, he was like keeping them in the river. Like they had like, it's pretty close to their natural habitat, but during monsoon season.
Oh, and then everything overran and.
So yeah, these wild animal, they were basically released into the wild, and it's like, well, like the boa constrictors and stuff down in the Everglades,
in South Florida, yeah.
So, when we have iguanas in South Florida, there's even now, what are the South American things that look like giant guinea pigs? It sounds like an Irish. Sounds like an Australian name. Giant guinea pig looking thing from South America. Capybara. How did Siri said she's speaking Southern now, y'all? I'm proud.
Capybara.
Capybara totally sounds like it should be from Australia, but it's South American. So in Florida we now have all kinds of crazy snakes, iguanas, capybaras, caimans.
I bet a lot of that too is from just people who have ridiculous amounts of money that have just released animals or whatever, because there's no way that stuff's coming over here, and it's not costing somebody a fortune to get one of those shipped across.
Yeah, well, what's one of the urban legends is that the snakes were released from some research center when Andrew came through, and it blew the research facility apart, and that's how the snakes escaped.
But that's kind of like the monkey problem in Tampa and like Central Florida, right?
Okay, well, Crystal River, the monkeys, those were brought in by a guy who was running a tour boat company, which we can do a whole episode about that. But yeah, and he released those as a tourist attraction.
Oh, yeah.
Now there's a colony of monkeys off the South Carolina coast, then I believe that those were from a research facility, and humans are not allowed to go on the island because of
they're sick, like diseased or whatever, and the monkeys
we're all
are probably
primates,
crazy.
So guess what? They can get what we get, and vice versa. So what brought us? Invasive species. That's what we were talking about. So basically, the hippos are now an invasive species in Colombia.
Oh yeah, because they are apex predators.
Yeah, so they've brought in experts, and some of this information I'm getting from because we watched or my mom and I actually watched it. It's a documentary on Nat Geo, which I think is on Disney Plus. I think it's one of the channels on Disney Plus. So if you're interested in seeing more about the story. So the 4 have now multiplied to about 80 or so. And one of the experts says that in Africa, because of the droughts, that causes the hippos not to have a baby that year. But in South America, in this river land, there's no worry for droughts. So the hippos are populating at exponential rates compared to what they would be doing in their home country, their normal environment. And they don't have any natural predators. So they think within the next, in the next several years, there could be probably about 130 hippos in the area.
Jeez. And you would think, kind of like around here where, they would have hunters going after them hard, because if it's an South America too is probably doesn't care much about it as say like Florida does, because we have people actually hunting those boas constrictors in South Florida. I don't know if there's anything that they can do about the iguanas.
We're getting there. They say within 8 years they think the population will hit about 400.
Then that's got to, but I mean, at some point it's going to become catastrophic for whatever
the natural
area.
environment. Yeah. Well, not to mention they've already started spotting them coming into the towns and stuff along this river.
Yeah, and they'll get
and
less
they're the
scared.
most dangerous animal on the planet, apparently.
Oh, yeah. They're moody.
And very territorial and weigh about 6,000 pounds.
It's a lot.
It's probably more than a Chinese spy balloon. It's the size of 3 buses. No, maybe not. Buses weigh a lot. Escobar's hacienda and the hippos have become sort of a local tourist attraction. We're back to reading the article. In the years since the kingpin was killed by police in 1993, when his ranch was abandoned, the hippo survived and reproduced in the local rivers with favorable climate conditions. Scientists warn the hippos do not have natural predators in Colombia and are a potential problem for the biodiversity, like we were just saying. Even their feces change the composition of the rivers and could impact the habitat of manatees. And last year, Colombia's government declared them toxic and an invasive species. Now they're having a plan to try to capture some of these hippos and transfer them to zoos around the world. But the question is how do you capture a 3-ton
adult hippo
hippo with giant tusks that can crush your head?
Yeah. Lots and lots of tranquilizers. But from what I understand, they're all muscle. I mean, and I don't know. Of course, I don't know anything about hunting hippos.
So the plan is to capture them. And I believe, India and Mexico have said that they will, I guess they have claimed a couple of them. So yeah, they're planning on airlifting the hippos out of the Colombian rainforest.
Let's see how that goes for them.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of maybe watch this story. How about a Florida man story?
We're always up for a Florida man story.
Yeah,
because that always makes us look so good.
Well, he doesn't ever let you down, though.
He's always there for a good story.
Yep. Okay, so Volusia County, which is down by Daytona Beach, or I guess it is Daytona Beach. Late the other night, a man hears a knocking at his door, so he gets up out of his old lazy boy and pauses the DVR and walks over to the door, opens it, and doesn't see anybody out there. Then all of a sudden feels something latch onto his leg.
Ooh.
And start shaking. What's your guess to what was knocking at their door?
If it's a Florida man story, it would have to be an alligator, right?
It was. A gator came and knocked on the door and grabbed this Florida man's leg. They called 911 and he was taken to the hospital. They said it was non-life threatening. Then a trapper was called, who are licensed by the state, and the gator was euthanized.
How big was the thing? It probably wasn't very big.
He did say how big it was.
Is it 4 or 5 feet probably? Wonder what triggered it to attack too. You knocked on the door. You think it was probably just spooked?
Yeah, it doesn't. I thought it was like a 9-footer, but he probably wouldn't have been able to get loose from a 9-foot alligator.
Well, that's what I was thinking. In a gator that big, that thing would be huge at the door. You wouldn't mistaken it for a dog. You know what I mean? It'd have to be a little guy. Plus, the bigger they are, I think the more they try to avoid people.
Yeah, so he did get loose. They took him to the hospital, and the gator was euthanized. But this time of year, one of the things it mentions is the weather starts warming up. Gators start moving because they're looking for new territory.
Well, their babies get pushed out.
The babies get pushed out by the bigger gators, so it's not uncommon. And from the way it sounded in this story was that he, and a lot of places in Florida, especially in South Florida and coastal areas, they'll have canals behind their houses. And that's what this sounds like. He was probably on a canal because they said that they would see gators out behind their house all the time, but they never approached. But also, I will say that gators, they're reptilian and their brains aren't very advanced, but they do watch and look for patterns. I mean, the boogers can climb fences. So, I mean, they're not, I know it's instinct, prey driven, but they figure stuff out. They'll watch for patterns. And if they knew that people were coming in and out that door, especially if they had a pet or something, there's a good chance he's going to go wait at that spot for the door to open for a chance for some dinner.
To speak to the... Yeah.
Just the same as when gators go through people's doggy doors.
Yeah.
It's because they've seen a dog go in and out that door. That's how they know to do it. But, yeah, so...
Yeah, we're very
Florida
familiar
man
with...
survived. He overcame the gator
what I was going to try to say is we're very familiar with the gators moving because we get them every about 3 years in our pond. You know, because we have a lake that's called...
It's not a lake. It's a swamp. It's
Alligator
a Shrek
Lake.
swamp. It's our swamp.
Yeah.
It's my swamp. No, there is a big lake down the road from us, and it's called Alligator Lake, not only because of the original name of the town, but the thing is full of alligators. But yeah, in the springtime, they kick the babies out, and every once in a while we'll get one out here, and if they start getting too close to the house, then we call a trapper, and
that's an interesting story, too, how they lottery for trappers. Since they're just,
yeah, when they cover territories, too, so it's not like... Yeah, so like you call Game and Fish, they give you a number for a trapper, and then you contact that trapper, and depending on how busy he is, because like this time of year, they're probably trapping a bunch. Mm-hmm. Then you get put on a list, and when he's in your area, he comes in. Sometimes they'll use like rod and reel if it's a small enough gator. Sometimes they leave bait for them. We've had it done both ways with the trappers that we've had. And then they put little alligator handcuffs on them and throw them in a bed of a truck and
and haul them off to who knows where.
And we all wave goodbye because he's going to the alligator farm in the sky.
Mm-hmm. Around here, somebody's going to eat them.
Well, I mean, gator meat's, I think that's what pays for them to be trappers, is because hides and...
I don't know, all the ones we've seen, they seem to be like more in it for the fun of it.
Well, whatever.
Which is kind of crazy.
As long as they're using whatever they're taking, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay, our last story is a fun one. I heard about this one, and I hope it's the same story. I had a hard time tracking this one down. But the guys over at Expanded Perspectives told the story on the podcast, and it probably shouldn't have me cracking up, but it did. And then I shared it with my mom, and she was cracking up too. And it's hard to make her laugh sometimes, y'all, because I'm just goofy all the time, and she's used to my shenanigans. So this story comes from the Mirror, and cops flee police station after goblin delivered in suitcase.
Goblin?
A goblin. So we've got elves, and now we have a goblin. The bizarre creature, which had a terrible odor, was overpowered and burnt after wreaking havoc at the Nick in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. I will not be trying to say that again.
I wonder what their name for it was. What was their name for it? Goblin?
I don't know. It just says goblin.
Just says goblin? Huh.
Cops abandoned their Nick. We're going to have to Google what a Nick is. I wonder if that's like their
Nick.
headquarters.
How do you spell that?
N-I-C-K. A Zimbabwean Nick.
A cut or a notch. A prison.
Okay, so it was like a jail. Okay. Okay, so cops abandoned their Nick, which we now know is a Zimbabwe jail, screaming in terror after they were confronted by a goblin. The mysterious creature was taken in a suitcase to the Tashabalala, there was a lot of laws on the end of that, police station in, oh Lord, I said I wasn't going to try it again, Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, by a family who said it belonged to their tenant.
So what they set it on fire? Is that what you're saying? Oh, you're gonna get there.
Yet.
I gotcha. Because they ran out of the prison.
Yeah, all of the cops ran
because
away
they saw
because
a goblin. Gotcha. Okay.
Suitcase goblins.
All right, I'm following.
Okay, after the suitcase was opened, the critter jumped out of the bottle filled with blood, causing the police officers to scatter in all directions, with some even diving through the windows to escape. An unnamed cop told Bulawayo 24 News he heard some screaming from the charge office, and most officers who had knocked off rushed to see what was happening. So, okay, even the officers who were off duty came back to see what was going on.
Oh, geez, nice.
At first, everyone gathered around the suitcase, wanting to see what was inside. No one told anyone it was time to run. One minute the charge office was full, the next it was empty. I think some people went out through the windows because we could not have all fitted through the door. Fat cops, slim cops, all ran for their lives screaming. Police officers present gave different accounts of how the goblin looked. Some said it looked like a snake with the head of a dog. Others said it was a dog with scales, like a... Lord, I can never say this thing's name. It's like an African armadillo. Pangolin. It's like an armadillo and an anteater had a baby. Can you picture that?
Yeah, I got you. I got it. Move on.
However, they did all agree that it smelt terrible. The traditional healer who attended the police station with the family was said to have overpowered the goblin and burnt it. Bulawayo, police assistant inspector, oh my gosh, y'all forgive me, Bihikimpilo, and I'm not even going to say the last name because it's like all consonants, confirmed that the incident had taken place. And that was the end of the suitcase goblin story.
So I wonder how they caught him. I mean, it just says the healer caught him and set him on fire, you know? Like,
Yeah.
What did you do? Did you, like, use a magic spell on him, or did you,
I know.
you know, was it
story,
like a silver chain that held him
Right,
down?
yeah.
Or
I don't know, because in the story that they told on Expanded Perspectives, it was also a suitcase goblin. But this one was brought... The guy was accused of killing the neighborhood dog, like the village dogs. And so they brought him into the NIC, I guess. The prison, jail, police station, to see if he had any poison on him. So they carried his little case in there, open it up, and that's when the goblin jumps out. And then they had to hire a witch finder to find the goblin and get rid of it.
So if the entire town came just to see a guy who poisoned a dog, and that's when they opened the case and a goblin jumped out.
And then they had to get a witch finder. That's how their
Is that why they were
went.
running, was to find the witch
Oh,
doctor guy?
Something that was like a snake-headed dog. I don't know that I would stick around.
I don't know.
And
Like,
I
to
used
me,
to be a ghost hunter.
I know, right? But I would think that cops, with as much as they see,
They
like,
don't
disturbing,
see suitcase goblins.
yeah, but they see a lot of disturbing stuff. You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
think that they're trained for suitcase goblins.
Yeah, well, you know,
Cocaine bears,
maybe.
And we have wildlife officers for that, and they're armed. But not suitcase goblins.
But the witch doctor healer guy, he's got goblin training.
Well, of course, that's why he's the witch doctor healer guy.
We could probably use some of those around here.
Oh, maybe he could help Florida man. I hope this was an okay episode for a big change. Again, if you liked it, maybe check out the Patreon for a month. Also, I have to recommend friend of the podcast, Cindy Rose, also known as the Needle Woman on Instagram. Y'all give her a follow. If you're into like reenactment stuff, she's a great follow. And she makes all of her own period costumes. She did a series where she was building like a corset and did all the her own boning and ribbing and stuff in it. She does crazy good work. But one of the things that made me think about her, about the story I'm fixed to tell you, was because she had just posted and she was wearing like male period garb for a reenactment she was going to. And years ago, when I first started working with producer Mike, I'd be in stores like in the middle of the night. This was pre-pandemic. So I would used to be in even earlier than what I go in now. And I was on an aisle in our Publix here, stocking, putting the goldfish up, as I do. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this man dressed all in gray with the little cap on. And I'm like, is Publix haunted? And then I turned and was like, oh, it's February. And we have a Civil War festival in this town every year in February. So it was just a reenactor on the aisle, but it was like in the middle of the night. So it must have been Walmart if it was in the middle of the night. But anyways, that's semantics. So yeah, that was my experience with my not Civil War ghost in a grocery store in the middle of the night. I thought it was pretty funny. Oh, and I'm working with Dr. Chris Essing, friend of the podcast, on us possibly doing an interview from the Old Blanche Hotel here in town. And we'll probably discuss some of more of its notorious guests from the past and some of its history. And of course it's old, so they say it's haunted. And so we'll talk about some of that, and hopefully that'll be coming this summer. Y'all be sure to follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Producer Mike puts together some TikToks. If you want to get in touch, you can email the show at loreofthesouth@gmail.com. And with that, we'll talk to y'all later on Lore of the South.
See ya.